Hi, I'm William Chip Beeman, CEO of Nighthawk Digital Entertainment Group, and you're listening to the Audio Description Narrators of America Know Your Narrator series.
Today, we're very happy to have Michael Bove with us. He is a voice talent. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me, Roy.
What do you love about audio description?
Boy, you know, it was such a surprise to me. It is just so fun to me to do. I've done a lot of commercial voiceover work, and I've done some books, and those are like really stressful for some reason. And actually, I just love the flow of it, of when I get into it. And it could be because I'm also a drummer, a musician, as drummers like to call ourselves. There's something about just going with the cold copy and getting into the flow of reading it and telling a story, and it feels like a performance to me rather than like voice acting. So it's a little more freeing to me and fun. It was a big surprise actually when I started doing it.
What is the difference between, voice acting and this performance that you're talking about? How does commercial voiceover reading an audiobook differ to audio description?
You know, I'll speak more to the difference from doing like commercials and audio description. I've only really done I've only done one audiobook, and maybe that's why it was so hard, because it's the first time I did it. So actually, I'm probably going to cover one of your other questions here. When I first came in to audition to do audio description, I've been doing it for about a year now. I was pretty intimidated by the amount of copy that they had laid out on, at the time they were still using paper, and they had like 4 pages of wall to wall, full pages of copy. And I was like, oh my God. At the time, I think I'd only gone to listen to like Mrs. Maisel's audio description, and probably not much of it. And all I heard was a few things where it's like, a man walks in with holding a pizza, like very like simple. And I was like, oh, I got this. So when I went to audition, I was just like a little intimidated by how much copy there was, and by, I was doing like Ratatouille in the audition, and then like some other action movie, highly detailing how an elevator was falling down a shaft, and, all the music and all the, sound effects going. I was kind of like, oh my God, I was overwhelmed. But then I finally got into it and started having some fun, and I was actually surprised that even though how overwhelmed I felt, that I could actually do it and stay calm. But to answer your question, the difference is it's like I'm just trying to provide a service for for what's going on, and just to accurately describe. Obviously the script's already written, but just to be of service to what's there, and I don't have to worry so much about, I don't know, it just doesn't, it seems like it's more about getting into a flow for me and reading what I need to read, and having it come across in a neutral way, but still staying true to myself, and not having to put too much into it. Whereas voice acting, especially in commercials, you are like, they ask you to do it. They've asked me to do it many different ways, and sometimes they just get very picky about one word, just like the way that you're saying one word, and they can spend a lot of time on like one word, and it's just not as fun for me as it's a little more in and out than audio description. But I find audio description just to be fun, like a performing a song, or like even a sport for some reason. I don't know if anyone else has ever said anything like that, but that's how I look at it. It's just very enjoyable.
And it sounds like that enjoyment that you're talking about and being true to yourself, as far as that that flow. I love how you said flow with the sports analogy, and the flow that a lot of the core of the athlete's practice seems to be doing exercises and working out, getting to the point that they can get in the flow. Do you find that analogy might hold true to audio description?
I think it can. It's not maybe so much for me, and it's something that actually just came to me probably on my last session, like that. I'm somebody that used to tend to overthink things and to over prepare, and I think that stunted a lot of my work before. But I was also never required to do work in such, like doing a movie. And especially now we've been doing some, like a lot of QC on the fly, like where I'll just be doing this for like, I could be working for, 4 to 6 hours on something. I don't think I was ever required to I never had to be there so long to actually, I don't think I was able to ever get into a flow because of how short the work was in commercials. And it was mostly like, I think because it was so short and you had such a small thing to deliver, I think maybe I'd put a little more pressure on myself. But now I guess I've seen how there is a little more, the voice could be a very delicate instrument sometimes. And I have kind of a raspy voice, so I can really feel whenever something is a little bit different. like if I were to sometimes there's that trick of like if your mouth's getting dry, you have like a green apple or something like that, and which is interesting. So it could help the dryness of my mouth, but then I also find that the way that my lips are working or my tongue on my teeth is completely different. So that was the first time I was able to be like, wow, this is kind of like a physical sport, and you kind of have to deal with whatever's coming, whatever your voice or your mouth is doing that day, or if you have allergies, just kind of working around those little things. And then I'm always surprised to hear that everything sounds nice and smooth and calm when sometimes that's not what was going on in my head. It could have been a huge struggle, and you play it back, you're like, okay, good, that actually sounds nice. I don't know if I answered your question.
I think you did, and it's talking about the technical side as well as what you said about that trust. I mean, you started saying that from being intimidated to the copy to getting into it and staying calm. That it sounds like that trust is probably even a team effort. The people that you work with are saying, yeah, this is great, in spite of what might be going on behind the scenes or in your head.
Yeah, no, that is helpful, especially when you get that kind of feedback from who's ever producing it. Even if it's just in an email, that goes a long way. And because I consider myself fairly new at this, I wasn't quite sure. I guess anything that you're new at, you're not sure. Like, is this good? Am I doing a good job? But when you get called back and people said, oh, well, we had no notes for you. We had one note. You're like, oh. Okay, cool. I guess this is going well. So just recently, I know it's really discovered how much I enjoy it. It's just kind of like, wow, this is so fun to do. But yeah, that trust is crucial. Trusting in yourself, developing that is great.
What's your experience in the last year as far as audio description goes? Has anything changed for you or the process that you could talk about?
Well, a couple things. I mean, where I was working before, mostly where I work from, we were still using paper scripts, which I'd heard from other people that that was way behind the times. So I actually kind of like the tactfulness of having the paper script there. I don't know. I like it. I draw on it sometimes in between takes and stuff. And so actually, I just did my first session. It was like a TV show, just like an hour-long show, to the I don't know what you would call that, Roy. What is that called when the copy's on screen? What do they call that?
Sure, on screen. Let's go with that.
On screen. Okay, yeah. So that was new, and just and a lot of times people aren't in the office as much, so they're doing what they're calling like a rolling QC. So you're just kind of there all day. It's a little bit longer of a process, but I don't mind. I don't know. It's just something. It's really nice to be in like a nice quiet studio and away from all the chaos of the world right now. I find it to be just very like, oh man, this is great to be here, and it's great to be working. Whenever that comes around, it's like it's a nice feeling to be working during this time, and just that peacefulness of the studio, just in between takes, or if you are waiting around, it's like, okay, I'm in a soundproof booth, it's pretty nice right now.
And where would you love to see audio description headed if you could have any dream?
Well, I mean, to me, it just seems like a no-brainer. It needs to be at 100%. Like, just it needs to be up there at the same capacity as closed captioning. I would think. It just seems it would seem just as important to me. If you have a disability with hearing compared to vision, I don't see what the difference would be. So I guess I think it should be required, and it's a great service from what I've seen. Like, I've never really done something that seemed to be so beneficial to people, and I'm not going to lie and say, oh, that's why I was doing this. I got into it just by hearing about it. And I said, that sounds like something I'd like to do. And the added bonus of, wow, you're providing a great service to people. But it just seems like it does feel good to know that people really appreciate it. From what I've seen on Facebook, in our group that we're in, how much people really appreciate it. And it seems like there needs to be more vision impaired people involved in the process too. That only makes sense. And I'm sure that's something that would be coming in down the line, because that's, they would be the experts of how this should be done, I would think.
Yeah, and this audio description was created by blind people for blind people. And a lot of the efforts are starting to be made with inclusion in the creation of the work for companies that might have only had sighted people involved. And to your point also about the closed captioning and AD, that both are accessibility needs, but with closed captioning, that's a transcription of existing material. With audio description, it is an adaptation, but it's a wholly created script, and there's so many different parts involved. It's similar to what you were saying about the audiobook, that it's almost like its own audiobook that has to be written. It has to be put to time code. It has to be, cast. It's got to be directed. It's got to be engineered. It's got to have a voice talent. It's got to have quality control. All of those elements are a lot more involved than closed captioning.
That's true.
Yeah, and part of it doesn't negate the need of it. It's just there is a conflation of, closed captioning, so let's do AD. That a lot of the joy of this particular series in interviewing you and a lot of other decision makers and talents, both audio description voice talents and writers and engineers, is that we're really hoping to illustrate to our audiences, our audio description audiences, the level of care and detail and work that goes into it behind the scenes to deliver that thing that you switch on.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point, and that is what I found interesting too. Is like, wow, these are actual scripts, and there's so much that goes into it in terms of the timing and what you're trying to get across, and the time that you have to get that point across. It's like, you're right. It's an art form compared to just transcription.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience?
I don't know. I just feel honored to be doing it, and it's a joy to do. It's one of the most fun things I've ever done in my career in entertainment. So I'm just really happy to do it, and I hope to be doing more. So
it's great to know also your background with voice work, and even as a musician. I'm sorry, drummer, musician, whichever you prefer. How can people reach you, Michael?
You can find me on the audio discussion group as Michael Bove on Facebook.
Nailed it.
No, it was fun. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.